If you've tried to save money and it just hasn't stuck, I want you to hear this first. It's not on you. Last video, we covered 7 psychological traps running in the background of your brain, totally on autopilot. But there's a second reason saving doesn't work for most people, and it's got almost nothing to do with psychology. It's the actual numbers. Here's the data. Right now, the average American household is short somewhere between $7,500 and $9,500 in emergency savings. Not because people are bad with money, because in a lot of places, monthly expenses just flat out exceed what someone can realistically save. Sometimes the math genuinely doesn't math. No app fixes that. No amount of discipline closes a gap that big. But here's the part that matters. 2 people, same income, same city, same bills. 5 years later, completely different financial pictures. That gap isn't random. Today we're covering both halves of this. The real economic pressure making saving harder right now, and the specific system that determines who still builds a cushion anyway, even on a tight budget. Every piece of saving advice you've ever heard comes down to one sentence. Spend less than you earn. It's so simple, it's almost insulting. Like, nobody had thought of that. Here's the problem with that sentence. It treats saving like a math problem. Math problems have one right answer. You learn it, you apply it, done. But saving isn't really a math problem. It's a behavior problem that happens to live inside a math constraint. And there's research backing this up directly. Financial behavior is driven way more by systems and structure than by motivation and discipline. Families who actually build savings aren't more disciplined people. They've just built different systems. Not more motivated, different systems. Keep that in your head. We're coming back to it. Let's deal with the numbers honestly first, because skipping this would be dishonest. 54% of Americans saving less right now point to inflation and rising prices as the main reason. Not impulse buys, inflation, housing, childcare, healthcare, basic utilities. In a lot of regions, that's already eating 25 to 40% of someone's income before a single optional dollar gets spent. And it's not getting easier. 2026 tariffs alone are adding somewhere between $570 and $2,500 a year to the average household's costs. 88% of Americans walked into 2026 already financially stressed. 77% had a real financial setback in the past year. Those aren't small numbers. So if this is your situation right now, the problem was never your character, it's the gap. And closing an income gap takes different tools than closing a behavior gap. We'll get into both, eventually, on this channel. But here's the thing. Even inside tight budgets, some people still build a cushion. Same income, same city, different outcome. That difference is what the rest of this video is actually about. Most budgeting advice fails for one really specific reason. It asks you to make decisions constantly. Track every purchase. Sort it into categories. Review it weekly. Adjust monthly. No shade to budgeting apps, but that's a lot of upkeep. It works for about 3 weeks. Then a hard week hits and the tracking just stops. Not because you failed, because systems built on willpower are designed to break under pressure. That's just how willpower works. Think about the last habit you actually built that stuck. It probably wasn't pure daily willpower. You removed the decision. You don't decide to brush your teeth every morning. You just do it. Saving needs to work the same way. The second it requires a daily decision, should I move money today? You've built something that depends on willpower. And willpower runs out fastest exactly when you're stressed, which, like we covered last video, literally shrinks your ability to think clearly. That's the real reason budgeting advice has such a high failure rate. People want to save. The system they're using just depends on the most unreliable resource a person has. Here's something genuinely strange that explains a lot of this. A researcher named Hal Hershfield ran brain scans on people while they pictured their future selves. What he found, when people pictured themselves 10, 20 years out, their brain activity looked almost identical to picturing a total stranger. not a slightly older you, a stranger. Think about what that means for saving. When you put money in a retirement account, your brain doesn't fully clock that you're the one receiving it later. It registers it more like giving money to someone you've never met. That's why saving can feel like charity to a stranger instead of taking care of yourself. And people are just less motivated to sacrifice for strangers than for people they actually know. This isn't a character flaw. It's a literal pattern researchers can see on a brain scan. So how do you fix something wired into how your brain processes time? You don't fight it head on. You make future you feel less like a stranger. Write a letter to your future self. Look at an age-progressed photo of yourself. Rename the account, not savings, something specific. Future me's apartment fund. Whatever feels real to you. Once future you feels specific instead of abstract, your brain treats that money completely differently. Not charity to a stranger. Care for someone you actually know. Last video we covered mental accounting, treating identical dollars differently depending on where they came from. There's a version of this that explains why saving fails even when the money's already there. Economist Richard Thaler found people mentally sort money into categories that don't feel interchangeable, even though, financially, a dollar is a dollar. Here's how that wrecks saving specifically. Money sitting in savings often gets mentally filed as not available, even though technically it's right there. No lock, no barrier. So when an unexpected bill shows up, most people don't even think to pull from savings. They reach for a credit card instead. Their own savings just isn't in the mental category of money I can use. That's part of why credit card debt in this country just crossed $1.28 trillion, even among people who technically have savings sitting untouched. Average balance now sits near $7,900, racking up over $1,600 a year in pure interest. Money that could have gone into savings instead pays a bank to not use savings that already exist. The fix is the opposite of what you'd guess. Don't make savings feel locked and distant. Make it feel real and usable, specifically for emergencies. The goal isn't to forget it's there. It's to remember it's there and actually use it instead of reaching for debt out of habit. So willpower budgeting fails. Future you feels like a stranger. Mental accounting blocks money you already have. What actually works? Honestly, it's simpler than the problem makes it sound. Automation. Specifically, automation that needs zero ongoing decisions after you set it up once. 3 layers. Quick rundown. 1. Move the money on payday, not after. Most people try to save whatever's left at the end of the month. There's almost never anything left. Spending naturally fills whatever space is available. Fix. Set an automatic transfer for the same day your paycheck lands, before you ever see the full number. 2. Start small. Smaller than feels meaningful. The instinct is to save 20% right away. That competes directly with bills that already feel tight, and it usually collapses fast. Starting small and increasing later beats starting big and burning out by month 2 every time. Even $10 a week, automated, untouched, builds real momentum. Not because $10 changes your finances, because it proves the system works without needing willpower, which makes increasing it later feel doable instead of scary. 3. Separate the emergency fund, physically. Different bank if you can manage it. Different app. Just enough friction that impulse spending doesn't reach it, but real emergencies still can. That's the whole difference between people who save and people who don't. Income held equal, not character, system design. Let's make this concrete. Here's what to do in the next 7 days, no matter how tight things are right now. 1. Open your banking app today. Set up one automatic transfer for the day after your next paycheck. Start small. $10, $15. The amount doesn't matter yet. The system existing is the point. 2. Rename that account today. Not savings, something that makes future you feel real. Future me's safety net. Whatever's true for you. 3. If your savings feels mentally locked away, use it once, on purpose. for something that's a genuine small emergency. That breaks the habit of reaching for credit instead of your own money. And if the math genuinely doesn't work right now, if expenses are structurally bigger than income no matter what you automate, that's a different conversation. Income, expenses, sometimes housing decisions. We'll get into that directly in a future video, because pretending one fix solves every problem wouldn't be honest, and you deserve honesty more than a tidy ending. For most people watching, the system in this video is the missing piece. Not more discipline, one transfer, one renamed account, taking the daily decision out completely. Saving was never really about discipline. It's about whether the math allows it, and for a lot of people right now, that's a real structural problem worth saying out loud. And for the rest of it, it's about whether you've built a system that runs without you or one that depends on willpower running out exactly when you need it most. You're not broke because you lack motivation. The data just doesn't back that up. You're broke because either the math is tight right now or nobody ever told you saving needed to be automatic instead of effortful. For most people, honestly, it's a bit of both. Now you know which one's yours, and you know exactly what to automate this week. If this helped you see your own situation differently, send it to someone who's been blaming themselves for something that was never really about willpower. Subscribe for more of this. Next video, we're going inside the banking system itself and exactly how it's built to keep you spending. See you there.